Book of Matthew, chapter 6. Find verse 19.
Amen.
And when you found it, please stand for the reading.
And Mom.
Matthew chapter 6. We're going to read verses 19 through 24. Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also.
Amen.
The lamp of the body is the eye. If therefore your eye is good, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eye is bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? Last verse. No one can serve two masters, for either he will hate the one and love the other, or else he will be loyal to the one and despise the other. You cannot serve God and mammon. Amen. You may be seated. This is lesson 10 in our sermon series, Thy Kingdom Come. You'll notice the title in your handout is The Treasure Principle. The Treasure Principle. I told you last week, y'all know me, I'm not big on talking about money. It's not my thing. But part of being citizens of the kingdom, there are certain things we found out last week how we should be viewing things we do. One of them is in regard to how we handle things, material things. We're going to talk about that a little bit today. I don't know if y'all know this, but we broke a record in this country this past Friday. We spent $1 billion more this year than we did last year. Shocking it was to the retailers because we are in a bad economy. So the shock was that we would actually spend more money than we did last year. Now, that's a good thing for the economy.
Amen.
Jesus has a lot to say in a very condensed way about how we handle material in life. So what I want to do is I want to be sure that we really get this in its proper context and that we really understand what's actually being taught here. Jesus is teaching here on what we call the Sermon on the Mount. Back in chapter 5, there was a multitude of people that have come to him. And he calls his disciples out specifically. And he calls them to him. Now he's sitting up on a hill. That's the mount. And he's actually teaching just his disciples. But everyone else gets to hear what he's saying. Because what he teaches is about the kingdom. And it's about what we're supposed to do since we are no longer of this world, but we are part of God's kingdom. How do we function in the kingdom? Now, when you get to chapter 6 is really about worship. It's really about how do I function since I'm in this world, but not of this world, and I need to worship my Father in heaven. So, before we even get to verse number 19, where he begins to talk about treasures, he starts out in chapter 6 by talking about charity and charitable deeds. And he begins a theme in the 6th chapter that we need to pay very close attention to. Look at chapter 6, verse 1. He says, take heed that you do not your charitable deeds before men. He says, be sure that you're not doing charity for everybody else to see. Amen. He says, because it's to be seen by them. So he says, in your charity, which is a good thing. It's something that we're supposed to do. It's a part of worship. He says, don't do it so that other people see what you're doing. Now, he gets down into verse 5 and he begins to talk about prayer. Look what he says. And when you pray, you shall not be like the hypocrites. Hypocrites. For they love to pray standing in the synagogues and on the corners of the streets that they may be what? Seen by men. He says, no. He goes on to say, what you need to do is go get in your closet, where only you and God are there. Because he says the only reason that you're doing this is to be seen by men. And then when you come down to verse number 16, after he instructs on how to pray, he says, moreover, when you fast, do not be like the hypocrites with a sad countenance, for they disfigure their faces, that they may appear to men to be fasting. So what he basically says is, your worship is between you and God. Don't do these worshiping things to be seen by men. He says that's the only reward that you're going to get. Now, the theme here is it's between you and God. It has nothing to do with anything anybody else has to say, or it's not there for them to see. So when we get down to verse number 19, he says, do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth. Now, verses 19 through 21, I'm hoping to get through today. If I don't, we'll have to come back and finish it up next week. The reason I say that is there's a lot in here. Now, verses 19 through 21, the king, Jesus, literally says to the citizens of the kingdom that your heart is where your treasure is. And he begins by saying, do not lay up. Now, lay up in the Greek literally means store up or amass. Gather. What do you think was happening on Friday? People were gathering. They were gathering things. They're just gathering things. We're gathering. We're gatherers. That's what we do. We gather stuff. Y'all don't gather stuff? Come to my house. I got some stuff for you. Got a large house. Got a lot of rooms. And all of it has furniture in it. And there's some things in there that I forget are in there. Stuff is there. We have things and we gather them. We gather cars. We gather clothes. We gather stuff. But look at what he says. He says, do not lay up for yourselves. That Greek word there that says lay up, literally, he's saying don't treasure up, don't gather, don't amass. Now look what he says, treasures on earth. The question is, first of all, what's a treasure? What makes it a treasure? Something that we take special pleasure in and delight in. Something that has great value to us. So he says, literally, when it comes to the stuff on the earth, don't gather that and add great value to it. Don't look at it as being so valuable. First of all, it's kind of silly to take the stuff that's here on the earth and to give it a whole lot of value. Look at what he says. Where moth and rust destroy. First of all, he says, here's a problem with it. It's temporary. If it's temporary, how does it have value? How does it have value? My car is more valuable to me right now than it was when I got it. Do you know why? Because it's paid